What do you say? Should we finish up our September Cuties today? Let's do it. Hi everyone, Cristin here, and oh boy, did you love the apples? I love the apples. I think they're so cute. That was just fun. Absolutely fun to have these collage apples. I thought they were great. Such an ingenious idea from Kimberbell. How cute are those? I hope you loved them as much as I did. I really did. So we have our center blocks, our inner borders, and our triangles done. So today I'm thinking we can finish it up. It might take 2 days, but I'm going to try and do it all today, and I'm going to film it all today either way. So let's go over what we need. So the corner blocks is what we're going to start with, because the corner blocks need to be done before we can finish our inner borders. So let's start with the corner blocks. They are on page 44 of our booklet, and very simple little packet here with just the corner blocks. So I mentioned in the prep video that I recommend cutting your corner block fabrics a little bit larger than what's in the book. In the book it says 2.5 by 2.5, 4 pieces. I recommend 3 by 3 if you have enough. My fabric scrap was definitely large enough. I had extras. Sometimes they're 5 by 5 though, so it's a tight fit, but this time it was definitely big enough. So I did mine at 3 by 3. If you're able to do them at 3 by 3, it'll make it so that you can tack it down, and then we'll trim them at the end. I did back mine with fusible stabilizer. Especially if you are not cutting them bigger, then you definitely want to stabilize them so that the stitching doesn't pull in on the fabric at all, and it will distort the size. And our final cut size is 2.5 by 2.5. So if you're starting it at 2.5 and you're stitching on it and it's pulling, then it will be a little bit smaller. So definitely back it with fusible stabilizer, especially if you aren't cutting it bigger. But if you can, cut it 3 by 3. That will take away any concern about that. All right, so 3 by 3 for your corner blocks. It's a tan brown, silky solid, no design to it. And we are going to quilt these, so we're going to use our batting. So our batting is the same size as your quilt blocks or your corner blocks if you cut them bigger. So 3 by 3 for your batting. 3 by 3 for your batting, 4 pieces, 1 for each of the sides there. We're going to add them onto those outer borders, and I'll show you how to do that. We'll talk about that, and I'll add the information in photos as well. So we are going to quilt this. Let me go back to the beginning here. The corner blocks, we're going to quilt them with bitty block bus. Oh, that's so cute with these apples. Such a cute little September Cuties. So bitty block bus, it's a 2 by 2 design. It's part of the bundle, the quilting bundle for the Cuties. The Cuties all July through December. That one whole bundle will get you going for all of it. All right, so bitty block bus, bitty block bus, bitty block bus. Can you say that a bunch of times? All right, and 2 by 2. And then hey everyone, so I'm at my computer and I'm going to quickly show you how to join the corner blocks together. I'm going to open up Embellishment Essentials. That's the embroidery software that I use. Down here at the bottom you can see I'm on my 9 by 14 hoop. I'm going to change this. I'm going to go to this preferences folder, click on that, and I'm going to use my 6 by 6 hoop. You can also use your 5 by 7 hoop. Will fit 4 of these blocks just fine. But I prefer to use my 6 by 6. I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to click on compass and H, and then I'm going to start by bringing in the quilting design. So I'm going to go to merge stitch file, and then I need those bitty blocks right there. Bitty blocks is the first folder in the download from the bundle of quilting for the July through December Cuties. So we're looking for the bust. The very first one is the bust. So double click on that. It goes to the center. While it's here, I'm going to go ahead and quickly change all these default blues and oranges will join together if we don't change the color of them, so that what we want to join will join and what we don't want to join won't join. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this first one. So 1-1, click on the color, and the first color that comes up for me is dark aqua. I'm going to choose that since it doesn't matter what color we choose. I'm just going to use the first one that comes up for me. So then 1-2, click on the color, and the first color is blaze for me. 1-3, click on the color, and the second one down, because we already used dark aqua, so I'm going to use marine. And again, these are Filtech Glide. That's my preferred thread color. That's why it comes up that way. You can change that in your preferences folder, or yes, up here in preferences. I think you can also do it here. All right, so anyway, 1-4, click on the color, and we already used Blaze, so I'm going to use Oriole. And then 1-5, click on the color, and I'm just going to change it to Sprout. You don't need to because it's really only there one time, but since I'm there, I might as well. All right, now, if I were to do a copy and paste right now, it's just going to do this last part because that's what is selected. So make sure to click outside of the stitch area in the workplace to be able to deselect them. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I'm going to click on the design because that will give me all 5 steps, and I'm going to go ahead and just move it. You have to click on the stitching to be able to move it. All right, so that's the first one. I'm going to say Control C to copy it now that we've already changed the colors, and I'm going to say Control V like victory to paste it. My V doesn't seem to like to work. Let's try this again. Control C, Control V, there we go. Now we have 2 designs. It's right on top of the first one, so it doesn't look like it's there, but it is. I can use the my mouse button or my mouse or my keyboard arrow key to move it over. Either way will work fine. All right, and then I can just hit Control V to get a third one because it's already copied from before, and this one I can just use the down arrow key to move it down to the bottom here. And then Control V again, and this one I am going to go ahead and bring it over with my mouse. All right, so there's our 4 designs. They're all in the corner. I have plenty of room for them, so that's all perfect. The only thing I need to do left is to color sort, and you can see down here at the bottom that I have 20 color steps. You don't need to close these designs, I just chose to. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Utility Color Sort. Make sure that you have these same settings that I have. Tolerance 0, RHS pre-sort is not selected, force applique, position, and material are not selected. Now notice it looks a little funny. It doesn't show the full lines, but they are there. You don't need to worry. This is just like a thumbnail view type of thing. But it says it has reduced the design by 15 color changes. So I'm going to click New View to check it and make sure that it did what I think it should do. So there's our placement for our batting, our tack down for our batting, our placement for the main fabric, our tack down for our main fabric, and the 4 school bus designs. So that's perfect. I'm going to click elsewhere to be able to do a file, save stitch file as, and I am going to go back to my quilting. Sorry, I'm getting a message. Let's see. So Cuties table topper, and I'm going to look for my quilting down here, I believe. There it is. Just July through December. Perfect. Embroidery files, Pez, and then I'm going to save it in my bitty block so that if I use the bus again, I'll be ready for it. I've got my block by block, and I'm going to say bitty bus times 4. All right, and save. Whatever you want to name it will work fine. And then I'm going to go ahead and send it to my machine since my machine is on and ready to play. So I go to Utility, Send to Solaris XP1. If you don't have a machine that does that, you would just transfer it to a USB stick, and that is all done. All right, let's get stitching our corner blocks. All right, so after we do those corner blocks, then we're going to do our outer borders. So our outer borders are on page 45 of our booklet, and it's just the outer borders and our batting in our packets. If you pre-did all of your packets, then you're all set. So our outer borders, don't forget, I like to do these a little bit longer just to make sure that you don't have any problems. You've got a little wiggle room in case the stitching pulls in, anything like that. So I'll tell you what it says in the book. In the book, all 4 of them. In the book it says, where are we? Outer borders, 2.5 times 18, 4 pieces, 2.5 times 18. I did mine to 20, so 20 inches long, 2.5 inches times 20, and then we'll cut them down in assembly just to make sure that we don't have any problems at all. And I did back mine with fusible stabilizer. That is optional, but especially if you're cutting them smaller. If you're cutting them to the exact size that we need, then I would definitely back them with fusible stabilizer so that you don't have any puckering or any pulling on the stitching. But up to you, your project, your way. All right, so 4 pieces. My recommendation is 2.5 by 20 for all 4 of the outer border strips. All right, and then we have our batting. Now our batting, let me grab my glue stick. I always forget. All right, so I use a glue stick. You can use fabric spray or glue stick to add your batting on. Or you can do it the original method where you don't add it on beforehand. That's up to you. I like to add it on my borders. It saves a couple of steps and gets them centered just right and all of that. So that's my preference. If you haven't bought the glue sticks, I'll give you a link from Amazon. They are great. I really like these. It's so easy to just adhere it on and you're not getting that spray all over the place. I'm not a fan of the spray personally. So on our batting, we want these cut exactly the size that we need. Because like I said, we're going to add them onto our strips. So our batting, we want 4 pieces that are 2 by 17.5. All right, 2 by 17.5, all 4 pieces. All right. And then, like I said, I'm going to show you how to add those corner blocks on to 2 of the strips. I'll show you in photos how to do all that. It's pretty easy, and it makes it so that you don't have any problems. The seams line up just right and all of that. All right, so that's our outer borders. Let's get started. By the way, I'm going to bring you over to the computer and show you how to merge those into one hooping if you choose, and depending on your hoop size. All right, so completely optional. You can do them all separately. You can do merging them together on your machine if you prefer. It's very quick and easy on embroidery software. So I'm going to bring you over there and show you how to do that. Okay, once we have our corner blocks done, then it's time to do our outer borders. So I'm going to go to File, New Page in Embrilliance Essentials, and I'm on my 6x6 hoop. I think I'm going to need my 10x10. So I'm going to go to Preferences folder, click on that, and I'm going to go to my 10x10 hoop. Other hoops will work as well, but I'm going to use 10x10, I believe. All right, so this compass button, then H to have it zoom into my hoop, and I'm going to go to Merge Stitch File, and I am looking for border braid in a 2-inch design. So if we go to border, there it is, Stars and Braids, this one. And there's our border stars from our inner border. We're going to do the outer border now, which is the braid. So I'm going to click on this 2x10 and see what size this is. That's a really pretty design. That's fun. All right, click on that. And it is, click on the design, it is 9 5/16 long. And we want 18 inches of quilting, I believe. Let's see. 45. All right, so we want outer borders, we want looks like 17. Outer borders are 18 inches long, and we're going to have batting 17.5. So we want 18 inches of quilting. So if I do the 10-inch design twice, that will give me a little bit more than 18 or close to 19, and that actually will be perfect. So the excess will just run off on the stabilizer. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to try and get all 4 in one hooping. So I'm going to go ahead and just move this over using my arrow keys on my keyboard. to the very, very end without going over the side of the hoop. And then as always, I want to change these. Now I want to point out, I'm clicking outside so nothing is selected. You don't need, if you're going to add that batting on, like I explained in the beginning, if you're going to add that batting on, then you can click on step 1 and step 2 and delete those. You won't need those. Those are the placement and tack down of the batting, which we're going to add on already. So you can click on those and delete them very easily. And then you'll just have these 3 steps, which are all different colors, so you would not need to change any colors to do a color sort. All right, so you don't need those 2. I'm going to keep them in just so I can remember to tell everyone to bypass them for those that are not using software. So I'm just going to change the one color that is the same, this default one, blue. And again, you don't need to do this, but I'm going to do that. So I'm going to click on 1, click on the color, and I'm going to change it to dark aqua and say okay. The rest of these are different colors, so they are not going to join together. So that is perfect. All right, so I'm going to click outside of the area so that that one item is not selected, then click back on the full design so that I have all 5 steps, and I'm going to say Control C to copy, and then Control V like victory to paste a second one. And it goes right on top of that first one. I'm going to go ahead and grab it and just move it over a little haphazardly. All right, and then Control V for a third one, and then again click on the stitching, grab it and move it over, and Control V like victory for a fourth one. Since we already changed those colors, we don't need to worry about anything. We have to click on that stitching to move it over, and everything will be fine as far as the color sort. Before we do a color sort though, we need to make sure to align and distribute these. We have these 4 and you can see I did them haphazardly so that we could do that align and distribute. I need all the testing with the align and distribute that I can take because I always forget the settings on that one. So for these 4 things, I'm going to go ahead and close these design files so that I can select all of them. I'm just clicking from the bottom and dragging up to select all 4 so that we can tell the software what we want to align. So I'm going to go to Utility, Align and Distribute. And remember, you have to do this before a color sort, because once you do a color sort, those 4 designs turn into one design, and then you will not be able to move parts of them. They'll all be together. All right, so I think, let's see. I think I will do just this center button, I think. Let's try it. Say apply. Yep, that did it. Hey, we actually remembered. Pretty cool. And they look like they're already pretty well distributed, but I'm going to go ahead and click on that distribute button, and I'm going to keep center, center, and click apply and see if they move at all. There was a little bit of movement. All right, so those are done. You can see that they are all centered very well and aligned just right. So I'm going to do my color sort. Right now we have 20 color steps. I'm going to go to Utility, Color Sort, keeping in mind that the same settings that I have as here. All right, and I'm going to click New View. It says it's reduced it by 15 color changes. I always check New View just to make sure that it did what I think it should do. So steps 1 and 2 are those ones that you don't need, the placement of the batting and the tack down of the batting, because we're going to add that on, and I don't need it either, but I am going to keep it in just to remind everyone to bypass it that's not using software. All right, and then the third one is the placement of our main fabric strips and the tack down of the main fabric strips, and then there's our quilting. That is really cute. It makes me think of owl eyes. It's a very pretty braid, and yet for some reason I'm focusing on these 2 sides that make me think of owl eyes. Does anyone else see that? Is it just me? That's funny. All right, so that's done. I'm going to do a file, save stitch file as. Remember, always save as, because otherwise you're saving over the first thing that you brought in, and we want a save as so that we have that different file, the new file. All right, so I am going to go to embroidery files. It was the border stars and braid, the 4th folder down, and I'm going to say what is it, 2 by 10 times 4 is what I'm doing. All right, and maybe I'll say braid. I think it was a braid, right? All right. 2 times 10, because I'm using the 10-inch design, and it's 2 inches times 10 inches, and then it is times 4 because there's 4 strips on here, and it's the braid design. Save. And then I'm going to send it to my machine, utility, send to Solaris, and boom, file sent to machine. All right, so now we're ready to get started on our outer borders. All right, so once we have our outer borders and corner blocks on, then it's time to do the backing. That we'll have the entire top done, so then we're gonna add our backing. So our backing is on page 45 of our booklet. It really doesn't talk much about it, but it gives the dimensions. That's about it. So the backing fabric, mine is a blue, like a Marlin blue silky solid, no design on it. In the directions, it shows that we'll get that lattice print, and I got a silky solid, and they often change that out. So if you got something different, don't worry about it. Not a big deal at all. All right, so Marlin, like bright navy bluish, whatever, for the backing. Now our backing fabric is supposed to be 24 by 24. I do not pre-cut it, and I don't recommend pre-cutting it. I just I iron out all the seams or the wrinkles, or what, creases, that's what they're called, the creases. I iron those out, and then I lay it out, and I put the top on it, and I just start doing my stitch in the ditch at that point. And then I have like at least an inch around each side while I do that, and then I cut it down after it's all stitched in the ditch. So that's how I do mine. If you are going to cut it exact, just be a little bit more careful, but 24 by 24 is what is listed in the book. So when we do our stitch in the ditch, I like to use invisible thread. I highly recommend it. It makes it so easy. You can put your bobbin, you can have the same as your back fabric if you choose. I don't really bother, to tell you the truth. It hangs on the wall, but you absolutely could do that. But for the front, you want to have you want to have an invisible thread so that you're not worried about it showing at all. It's going to make it go right in the ditch. If you have a stitch in the ditch foot, that makes it even easier. It kind of opens it up a little bit so that you can stitch right in the ditch. So I'll add a link to mine. This is Gutermann, is the one that I like. I also like Sulky. There's links below this video in the video notes of both of those. From Amazon, it comes direct easy. So I think that's great. The other thing for stitch in the ditch is you want good pins, all right? And I talk about this whenever we do our stitch in the ditch. I highly recommend sharp pins. It makes the process so much easier to attach that back fabric. And then I just take the pins out as I stitch in the ditch around each block so that I know that that block is done. So I'll add a link here for the Dritz pins. They are really great, nice and sharp, and they're curved and super easy to use. Comes direct from Amazon very quickly, so it's a great product as well. So that's for our stitch in the ditch. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the second to last part is our binding. I know it's usually our last part, but there's one other thing. So on our binding, it's on page 44 and 45. It is a navy blue lattice print. And in the book, it tells you to cut, let's see, binding, 2 pieces that are 2.5 times width of fabric and 1 piece that's 2.5 times 20. So I just cut mine to 3. It's easier for me. I cut 3 strips that are 2.5 times width of fabric. I do 3 of them. And the reason I do that is because I cut that off right from the start of that big piece of lattice fabric, because the rest of it we used on our inner borders, but this part we don't want stabilized. So if I cut it right from the start, then I don't have to worry about forgetting to not stabilize this. So I just do 3 strips that are 2.5 inches wide times width of fabric. But if you don't have enough, or you think you won't have enough, you will. But if you want to save it or whatever it is, then you could do 2 strips that are 2.5 inches times width of fabric and 1 strip that is 2.5 by 20. All right. So I just make mine easier so that I don't stabilize it. You don't want to stabilize your binding. I've done it a couple of times by mistake, and it's a hassle to make those mitered corners. I definitely do not recommend it. So if possible, don't stabilize that fabric. I mentioned that on the prep video as well. So as far as the binding, I have my special technique that I've done forever on binding. Everybody has their own technique. If you do it by hand, kudos to you. I don't do that. I tried it and I don't like it at all. So do you, whatever works for you. If you're new or you want to try a different technique, I will show you the way that I do my binding. All right, last step, and then we're done with our September Cuties. I'm determined to kick this light. I'm sorry. So our last step is the embellishment. So we don't always have embellishments on our cuties, but for September we do, and it's just the twine. So red and white twine. It came in our fabric kit. We just want to cut that big piece of twine to 4 pieces that are 9 inches long, and we're just going to tie a little ribbon onto the apple and tack it down. That's it, and then we're done. How exciting is that? So how are you doing with your goal? I did my run this morning before my shower. I had a good run with Hannah Edens in Yosemite. Nothing too spectacular about it. We did get to see a beautiful waterfall at the end. I'll share photos. But she had us running. It was intervals. So thankfully it wasn't just full out running. It was run for like 60 seconds and then take a little break and then run again. So lots of intervals. And it wasn't too bad, except that there were parts where we're at like 10% incline. I cannot run at that kind of incline. I don't know what she's thinking, but she actually brought it back too. She changes the speed on the treadmill. So I have a Nordic track treadmill, and with iFit, and so she, as the trainer, will say, "I'm going to dial your treadmill back a little bit because we're going up at this incline, so that it keeps your rate of perceived energy at the same rate of perceived exertion." I think that's it. Rate of perceived exertion. So she keep that RPA at the same, and so you have to change the speed and when the incline goes up. So it was a really good workout. I enjoyed it. It was only like 1.5 miles or a little bit more than that, so very doable. But I only have 1 more left. I'm so excited, and then I'll get that little digital badge. So, and last night I went paddleboarding. I only got 1 photo because you can't really bring your phone out on the water, right? Because I tend to go in the water. Not by mistake, but I didn't last night. I actually stayed dry. It was pretty exciting, and my arms are really sore. And my legs are really sore, and my tush is pretty sore. So it was actually a good workout to sit there and keep yourself upright, standing up, paddleboarding. So that was a really good workout as well. That was my workout for yesterday. So I'm working hard on building strength and doing all of that. So what are you doing toward your goal? I want to hear about it. And my shirt today is one of my favorites. It is a beautiful bicycle design. Isn't that so pretty? I love this one. It's from Embroidery Library. It's got a ton of stitches. I think it was at least 50,000 stitches. But the technique that I use for shirts works really well as far as the stabilizing. And I've got a couple of tutorials on how to do a shirt. So, and the shirt is from Amazon. It's one of my favorite designs for the shirt, so it works really well for embroidery. In fact, if I have any links left, I will add a link here. If not, there's always one underneath the video notes as far as purchasing a shirt from Amazon to embroider on. So I will add information under this video about the design from Embroidery Library. It's a really pretty one. Just be prepared. It's got a lot of stitches to it.